What's up, guys? It's Talha here today, and today what we are going to learn, what we are going to discuss, will be about programming fundamentals, and it's going to be about arrays. So today we are going to discuss arrays. What are arrays? How the syntax rules for writing the arrays in your code, and how to declare them, how to initialize them, how to initialize the components, what are arrays, why do we use them, and what's the benefit of using them, and why is it over the normal variable declaration. So today we are going to discuss about arrays, and then we have, if we have some time left after we are done with our first topic, that is arrays, we are going to discuss a program which we did about arrays. So today in the at the university we were supposed to do a program utilizing the our learning about arrays. So if you have time, we're going to discuss that as well. So first of all, let's discuss what are arrays. Arrays. So arrays are an array. Logical or a literal meaning, you can say an array means a sequence, or a fine or a good sequence of anything: numbers, integers, floating point, decimals. So a sequence, a proper sequence, so you can say a proper sequence of anything is called an array. So in C++, array just means the components, the all the components combined, which have the same uh, data type. So for example, if the data type of the same. So for example, if tell you to write a program, and you have to input, or you have to take 100 inputs from the you have to prompt the user to input 100 different variables. So how you're going to do that? You're going to declare first. So first you are going to declare 100 variables. First you're going to declare 100 variables, and then you are going to uh, do it with a loop, or if you don't want to do it with the loop, it will be quite a long process. You're going to see in, and for example, the variables are a1, a2, and if you want to if you are prompting the user to input 100 different variables, so you have to declare 100 variables of a2, a3 up to a100. So it's going to be quite a long process and quite lengthy to declare these 100 variables separately. And after that, you're going to do the if you're trying to get an input from the user, you're going to do that by the help of a for loop, and you're going to input, and then you're going to output the same way. But that's kind of the a headache to first declare the 100 variables and then utilize them in your program. So what you can do instead, arrays are used for this, to solve this problem. So what are I've stated earlier that arrays are in an array there are components of the array which have the same data type, and it's combined. So they are in a sequence and they have the same data type, and you don't have to declare uh, so you can just declare one variable. So you can just declare one variable instead of declaring many variables. And that variable is so when you will declare an array. So for example, an array is declared like, so first you have to mention the data type of the variables that you are going to place in the array components, and then you are going to have the array name. So for example, array name is my array name, and then you're going to specify the number of locations, the number of variables, or the number of places, or the number of spots you want this array to consume, or you want this array to hold in the memory. So for example, if I say 5, so that means that I want 5 memory locations contiguous. So what this contiguous means? Contiguous means like, one after the other, or at the same place. So these 5 memory locations for array name, they so all of this is named as array name, and it has 5 locations. It has 5 contiguous locations in the memory, means at the same place, and the data type is int. So now this means that I have reserved uh, an array of 5 of index. So this is called the index expression. This is called your index expression. An index expression, and it can also be an expression. So it has got to be an integer. A positive integer means 0, means it index can be greater than or equal to 0. It cannot be less than 0. It cannot be less than 0, because that way you are going to hold the negative places for the negative places for the variables in the memory, and that's practically impossible. So you have to have positive integers 0 or greater than 0 for as integers um, in the index expression, and it can also be an expression. So for example, if I say that you can have a variable instead of a number. So for example, if I declare I int I equals 1, and here instead of 5 I say this is I, so this means that this array is going to be built, and its name will be array name, and it will have just one location. It will no, it will actually have two. Sorry, I forgot to mention that arrays also always start with the number 0. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is a total of 6. This is a total of 6 memory locations, contiguous memory locations in the memory. And it's because the array sequence or the numbers always start from 0. So if you're counting up till 5, you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instead of 5 locations. So as I was talking about that, you can also place a variable instead of a number, and you can also place an expression. For example, if I say that I asterisk 2 minus 1, so that this expression has to evaluate to an integer value, because it cannot take a floating point value or a character. It can always take an integer value as its index point or index expression. So this is how you declare how you declare an array. So you mention the data type of the array, then you mention the name, and then so this is the this operator, the square brackets, are called the array subscripting. This is called the array subscripting operator. So this operator, the square brackets, is called the array subscripting, or I think index subscripting, or array subscripting operator, and it holds the index expression within it. So this was how you declare an array in your program. And now if so as I gave an example a little earlier, that if you want to declare 100 variables, if you want to prompt the user to input 100 variables, so instead of declaring 100 variables of the same data type, what you can do instead is declare it in an array. So for example, I can say that int an array name. For example, if I say that int variable, so var_i, and I declare an array of var_i up till, and I want this array, I want the length of the array to be 100. So there will be 100, so there will be 101. So there will be 101 contiguous locations stored in the memory of in the RAM. And in these memory locations you will have so each memory location is going to all of that the length of the array is 101, 101, and the name of the array is var_i, and the length is 100, and that these 100 locations will be contiguous, means at the same place. And this way it's quite easy to declare int var_i, and you want to and first you have to know how many locations you want, because you cannot change this index expression number during the program. So you cannot change the array length so while the program is running, you cannot change this index number. So it has got to be a constant. It has got to be a constant for now. But there are two types of arrays. One is one dimensional. One is a one dimensional array, and the second is multi-dimensional or multi-dimensional. And then there is a static array, and then there is a dynamic array. So one dimension means that it has only one dimension. So this is, for example, if I say that in a graph, so this is y-axis and this is x-axis. So here it is lined up as equal to your y-axis. So this is just on one axis, so we say that this is one dimensional. If it was on the x-axis, we would also say that this was this was a one-dimensional array. But in a multi-dimensional array, you have two dimensions of the array, which we are going to study later in the chapter. And also you have static array and dynamic array. So as I stated that in static, so this all of what we are going to study for now is going to be about static array. So in a static array, you cannot change the index number while the program is running, but in a dynamic array you can. But we are not going to study that for now. For now, we are just going to stick with our static array. So this was about the arrays, and I told you guys how to declare an array. So for example, so let me draw this structure or the one-dimensional array here. So you have 1 2 3 4 5 6. So you have 0 1 2 3 4 5. So you have a total of 6 locations, means 6 places in the memory of the computer, in the RAM. And the okay, so int array name, and you have to, this is the array subscripting operator, and you have the length is 5. So that means that this has 6 locations rather than having 5 locations. And so this, we put a semicolon after that. So this was the declaration. So now, no, or sorry, these aren't the so this is actually what these were. What I was mistaken about were the inputs. So this is the locations of the array. So this 0 1 2 3 4 and 5 are the locations or the locations of the components. It's constituted with every the an array is a constitution of the different components having the same data type. So you have, these are the different components of the array. These are the locations. These are the locations of the different components. So this is the, for example, 1 is the location of this component, or this block, or this space. 3 is the location of this space. 2 is the location of this component. So these are the locations, and these are the to the right is the location, and to the left is the components. So if I want to access a specific component of the array, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, for example, I'm going to write the array name. So this right here is the array name. And then if I want to access the array component, I would say, for example, if I want to access the array component 2, so array 2 equals 50. So what this means is that in the third location of the array 30, the number 50 will be stored in the third location of this array, because it's 2, so 2 will be 50. And if you if say that array 4, and you say that 40, so in the fifth location of this array 40, the number 40 will be stored. And you can have different data types of the array. So for example, instead of int, you can have char for character, you can have string, and this string data types we are going to study a little later in the chapter. You can have float, you can have double. So all of these blocks, or all of these components, have got to be your have got to match the data type you have mentioned at the beginning of the array. So so this was all about how you declare an array, and how you initialize an array, and how you alter and how you access different components of the array. So now, coming towards the program the teacher gave us today. So the program he gave us today was about, we had to first input from the user to input five components of the array. First we had to make an array whose length was 5, so that means it had 6 memory locations. And then no, okay, I'm confused. I was confused. So this means, the number you enter here means that 0 1 2 3 4. So this means that an array of length 5 will be built. So 0 1 2 3 4. So this is 1 2 3 4 5. So this is an array of length 5. Sorry, I was confused actually, because I thought that the number you mentioned here, the array will be 1 less, but that's not the case. You have the number you mentioned here, exactly this number of arrays, this number of components will be built, and the array will be made of this much number of components and this much memory locations, not greater or smaller. Sorry, I was confused. So the program the teacher gave us today was about we had to first build an array. So for example, int talha, for example, and you had to make an array of length 5, means it should have 5 components. It should have 5 memory locations within it. And then what you had to do is you had to prompt the user to input for every component. So you have to prompt the user to input for every component of the array. So that means you had to use the for loop for that to and prompt the user to input. So see in for every uh, see in Talha, and for example the counter was I, so the user had to input for every component of the array till the fifth component, and till the in an array there would be fourth, so till the fourth component, because it will start from I equals 0. And then they had to it you had to output, like for example this list, and list 0, you had to output like this. So list 0 equals the your first number, and list first component, and list 1 would be your second component, and so on and so forth. And then after that so what you had to do, you had to find the sum of every component in the array, and you had to display it. And after finding the sum, you had to find the average, so you would divide by the total number of the components. And then after that you had to show the smallest component in the array, and you also had to show the largest component of the array. So this was a task. I hope you guys would be able to do it by yourself, and with this I'm going to take your leave. Thank you very much.